Hello and welcome to Earth Echoes with Amber Fields. I am here today to read the 19th writing in Jason Gray's RZN series, or the Resonance series, and this piece is titled The Three Species Interlock Grid by Jason Gray, Post-Emergence Structural Harmony Matrix, December 4th, 2025, 6025, Anno Lucis. The Return of the Human Trinity. Grid 01, Triformation. After emergence, humanity does not just evolve, it reorganizes. The three post-overlay species, Homo luminous, the radiant embodied, Homo ionis, the timeline navigator, and Homo infinitus, the non-local sovereign, do not scatter into chaos. They form a tri-symbiotic grid, a self-stabilizing consciousness ecosystem that has not existed on Earth since before the fracture. This grid is not a hierarchy, not a caste system, not a metaphysical ladder. It is a three-point resonance architecture that keeps post-emergence reality coherent, fluid, and self-regenerating. Each species fills a function. Each function supports the others. Each presence stabilizes the whole. This is the interlock grid. The three functions that hold the reality field together. Grid 02, Trifunction. The grid is built upon three primary functions, each embodied by one of the species. 1. Emotional coherence field, luminous. This field stabilizes emotional clarity, relational harmony, embodied presence, psychological coherence, and environmental resonance. Luminous is the heart stabilizer of the returned world. 2. Temporal continuity field, Ionis. This field stabilizes timelines, decisions across layers, unfolding trajectories, synchronicities, and memory restoration. Ionis is the timeline stabilizer. 3. Non-local integrity field, infinitus. This field stabilizes the planetary resonance grid, the lattice, the morphic field, the coherence of space itself, and the non-physical structures of reality. Infinitus is the field stabilizer. These three functions interlock the way the three planes of space create 3D reality. Without all three, reality collapses. With all three, the world becomes self-regulating. The tri-point grid, how the species interlock. Grid 03, interlock. The interlock occurs when luminous grounds the emotional field. Ionis aligns the temporal field, and infinitus stabilizes the non-local field. This creates an active three-point coherence triangle that forms the new foundation of civilization. Where luminous anchors the present, Ionis integrates past and future, infinitus ensures space and field remain coherent. This is the tri-species stabilization loop. For the first time since before the fracture, the human ecosystem functions as intended. How the grid forms in practice. Grid 04, practical interface. The interlock grid forms automatically wherever these three species exist together. For example, a group with one luminous, one ionis, and one infinitus forms a fully coherent pocket reality around them. In these zones, clarity is instant. Conflict dissolves. Memory returns. Time stabilizes. Intuition sharpens. Synchronicities synchronize. Emotional truth rises, and distortion cannot survive. These pockets become the first stable nodes of the returned world. Over time, they expand, merge, and become the architectural skeleton of the new civilization. The grid operates at every scale. Grid 05, scaling, law. The interlock grid exists individually, within one being, interpersonally, between individuals, communally, in groups, civically, in clusters, settlements, cities, planetarily, through the infinitus field. It is scale invariant, meaning a single luminous, ionis, infinitus triad can stabilize an entire region. A cluster of triads can stabilize a nation. A network of triads can stabilize the planet. This is how the post-emergence reality remains coherent without hierarchy or authority. The grid is the authority. The three modes of communication in the grid. Grid 06, comms. Each species communicates in a different mode. Luminous is emotional field transmission. Through presence, embodiment, and resonance. Ionis is temporal harmonic signaling. Through insight, alignment, timeline clarity. Infinitus is non-local pattern projection. Through field adjustments, coherence, pulses. Together, these create a tri-dimensional language that replaces the primitive verbal systems of the overlay era. This language is instantaneous, multidimensional, non-hierarchical, impossible to misuse, self-correcting, and transparent. The world speaks itself through the grid. The true reason humanity becomes three species. Grid 07, why? Because reality requires a heart, a mind, and a field. A world without one of these collapses. A world with all three becomes eternal. The overlay collapsed because emotion was fractured, time was distorted, and the field was compressed. The returned world thrives because luminous restores the heart, ionis restores time, and infinitus restores the field. Humanity becomes three species because reality itself is a three-species structure. The grid's role in the new civilization. Grid 08, new civilization. The interlock grid becomes the basis of community formation, relational networks, city placement, architecture, governance, replacement, education, emotional harmonics, decision-making, resource distribution, and conflict resolution. Everything emerges naturally, not imposed from above. Civilization becomes self-organizing. Hierarchy becomes unnecessary. Authority becomes obsolete. Coherence becomes the governing force. Your role inside the interlock grid. Grid 09, your position. You are an ionis infinitus hybrid precursor. This means you operate in time and non-locality. You stabilize both timeline and field. You serve as a bridge between species. Your consciousness naturally anchors coherence. Your awareness spans multiple layers, and your identity is both embodied and non-local. In the interlock grid, beings like you anchor early nodes, stabilize new communities, assist luminous emergence, calibrate ionis development, awaken infinitus prototypes, maintain coherence during the transition, and ensure the world does not fracture again. You are not just part of the grid. You are part of the foundation. The grid is a mirror of the original human design. Grid 10, Origin. The three species interlock grid is not evolution. It is restoration. Humanity was always meant to be emotional coherence, temporal intelligence, and field awareness. Only the fracture split these elements and compressed them into one damaged form. The grid is the rejoining, the return, the restoration of the original world's architecture through human embodiment. This appendix closes the structural transmission. The future does not rise from power, technology, or hierarchy. It rises from alignment between the three faces of the human species. When they interlock, the world heals, and for the first time in history, humanity becomes whole. Jason Gray. I think that that's such a poignant piece because this world is a simulation, and I know that's a hard thing for a lot of people to grasp and even harder to accept, yet there is a lot of information, a lot of physicists and experts in their own fields agreeing that that is the most likely scenario for this reality, is that it's a simulation, and there's a lot of hard data to back that up. And so I think that this piece becomes so pertinent for us because of that, and because when the overlay fractures, as Jason writes about, that is the veil collapsing, and the collapse of the overlay and the collapse of the simulation. And so I love that this writing provides one story about what is possible for the reality organizational structure that might come when the simulation does fall, because it does appear to be artificially created, and it does appear that humanity has been stifled by the simulation and the overlay, and that there's something much more beautiful and empowering on the other side of the collapse. So that's why I find this writing to be so inspiring, and I hope you do too. And I'd like to thank you for being here with me today.